day, friends and fam. There is so much I wanted to include in my WVYL Vinylthon set list, but I just didn't have time. So I'm throwing this video out there where I can provide a little bit more background and context and share with you some more things behind the music, if you will. So, first off, I had my first record player when I was just a wee little lad. It was a Fisher Price, and my first ever favorite song was The Auctioneer. It was from a 45, and I just went from there. I purchased my own record player with money I made from my paper route when I was in middle school at a garage sale down the street. And most of my childhood and adolescent years, they stopped making records, right? You couldn't find vinyl. It became cassettes. It became CDs. So, of course, I have a lot of that as well. But I just began buying records where I could. I would buy them from thrift stores. I would buy them from garage sales, wherever I could. And they were cheap for years. And then, vinyl sort of has had a second coming, which is fantastic. So, of course, I buy a lot of new music on vinyl too. And then on top of that, when my dad passed, I inherited his collection. I just wanted to share some songs from my collection. And it was a really fun process. I will say, if you listen to it, I sound like a nerd. I'm not. So I thought when I had been selected as one of the DJs for this, that I would go into a radio station and would use professional equipment, and there would be someone there to produce the show, and all I would have to do is show up with my vinyl. Well, that's not the case. I had to self-produce my own show, so there's a learning curve with that. I've never used an audio interface. All of my recording equipment is 20 plus years old, so and there was a time crunch when I had to record this to submit it. So I'm sure my talking sessions are I mean, not the best quality and maybe not polished, but it was fun. So I hope I get to do it again, and we'll learn. I've learned from this for sure. I recorded things 2 and 3 times depending. I made so many changes to my proposed set list that I thought I would do, but I had to have exactly 59 minutes of a show, including all the talking and the promos and stuff. So here's what we came to. Let's start off. The first song I chose to play came from Diana Ross and the Supremes and the Temptations. So funny thing about this, first off, I thought, you can't go wrong starting off a set list with Motown, right? So I bought this for 25 cents. I can't remember where. And it's supposed to be a double LP, right? Well, the first LP is the first LP. The first LP is correct. The second LP in here, however, is not the right record. So whoever gave it away or sold it put the wrong second record in, and I played a song off of that quote-unquote mistake. It wasn't a mistake because it's pretty cool. I got to find this cool collaboration that I didn't know existed with this and this cool collaboration that I had no idea existed between the Supremes and the Temptations. So the first song I chose to play was I'll Try Something New. Let's move on. The second song I chose was from Janis Joplin. Shout out to my sister who got me this album. There's that connection. I chose to play the final song, the closing song in this album. It's with Full Tilt Boogie Band. The song is Get It While You Can. I almost played the first song that I ever heard of Janis Joplin. I remember that moment vividly. I was with my dad in his car, and me and Bobby McGee came on the radio. And I was just blown away. And my dad, of course, told me the context and, told me about Janis Joplin and told me about Chris Christopherson and his whole story. And he's the one that wrote the song. So always appreciated since then Janis Joplin. What an artist. And again, my sister got me this for a Christmas present a few years ago. So I wanted to share a song from this album. Let's keep going. The next artist is Ray Charles. The song comes from the album Crying Time. So Ray Charles was one of my dad's, favorite artists. I would say top three. The other two being Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald. So I inherited quite a collection of their records, their vinyl. This one, however, is my own. I bought this. I've grown to appreciate the genius as I've gotten into adulthood. And the song I actually wanted to play for WVYL was Ray Charles' cover of Yesterday by the Beatles. Similarly, the first time I heard that version, blew my mind, but I don't have that one on vinyl. So shared one from my collection again. This was from the A side. It's the fifth song, Peace of Mind. I thought that was a good one to share. So that was Ray Charles, and that album came out in 1966. The next song I played also came out in 1966, and that was Frank Sinatra's That's Life. Heard a ton of Frank Sinatra, another one of my dad's favorite artists. A ton of Frank Sinatra growing up. And again, just like with Ray Charles, I've really begun to appreciate Frank Sinatra in my, middle-aged adult years. I see what my dad saw. I mean, I knew he always had a great voice, and of course listened to Frank and enjoyed it, but I have a newfound appreciation, so I wanted to share that. So again, a little nod and connection to my dad. Next, this is a connection to my other sister. I have two sisters. So the album that this song came from is Wheatfield Soul by the Guess Who. The album, which by the way, it's funny, I don't know if you can see it, but it's not for sale promotion. I don't know how I got a hold of this, I don't remember. But the song leads off with These Eyes, which I, of course, remember hearing on the radio, on oldie stations when I was a kid. And my sister had a birthday a few years ago and asked me to create a set list for it, a playlist, I should say. And I think I led off the playlist with this song. It's just, it's a phenomenal song. So I like the Guess Who, wanted to share that with you. Next, this is a fun record I just wanted to share. And I'll just pause here. Sharing music is one of my favorite things in the world. I love how music connects us. I have so many memories of listening to a song or an artist for the first time with a family member or a friend. I have memories of going to concerts with different family members and friends, and to this day, continue to share music. And it's one of my favorite things. So that's part of why I'm doing this video also, is just to share a little bit, about my love of music and vinyl. So this is the Cars live at the Agora in 1978. This album had never been released before Record Store Day several years ago. And this is recorded on July 18th, 1978. The world didn't even know. I mean, they were about to know the Cars. The Cars blew up, had, the first two albums were gigantic, so many hits. And this was just right at the beginning. So I wanted to share that. I shared the opening track with the introduction and the crowd and all that fun stuff of Good Times Roll. So just kind of a fun vinyl to have. Next, I wanted to play a song that was huge in my childhood. I sound like a nerd on the recording of Vinylthon, but I remember listening to this song, singing the song, with my siblings and dancing, and just, I love this song. I have the album, I have the full LP. I have a couple LP of George Harrison, which I have, again, a good buddy who's a huge George Harrison fan, and I've gotten to know a lot more of his catalog through my friends. So, but the song was Got My Mind Set on You. I chose to play a 45 because I have it, and I thought it was cool. So that was fun. Got My Mind Set on You by George Harrison. Next, we go into my formative years, as I say during the radio hour, Rick Denser radio hour. Second time I ever was in a club for a show was this band. It was Lit. When this album came out, the vinyl was not released, so I had it originally on CD. But when they did release this later, I of course had to get it. It's pretty sick. Let me show you. White, nice white vinyl here. And I could have played, the hit that probably everybody knows by them, My Own Worst Enemy, but I chose to play a deep cut. It's a song with horns. It's called Happy. But that show with my friends changed my life. I had never been to a show with a mosh pit. I had never been to a show with crowd surfing. You're in this intimate room and there's just sweat and emotion and energy and, of course, fantastic rock and roll music. So I wanted to share a song, by a band that were super nice. Me and my buddies got to meet them a couple times, not that night, but later in the future. Really good guys, and I'll always be a fan of Lit, so I wanted to share that with you. Next, we'll move on to a band from Akron, Ohio, the Black Keys. So this album, of course, I bought the CD when it came out. This album came out in 2003. I had become a fan and aware of the Black Keys around 2004, I think. So this was, I think the album that was out, and I bought it because of Thick Freakness, because of this. I heard it, I think, on the radio, I think I heard it on college radio at Bowling Green for the first time, and I was like, what is this? Real in your face, loud, abrasive blues rock, right? I just fell in love with this album. And I wish I could have seen the Black Keys when they played the Lime Spider, in Akron. But I've been following them, ever since. So, of course, wanted to share a local music favorite. And they, of course, went on to international fame. So that was very cool. Next, really excited to share this next one. The album had just come out very recently. And it was originally released only on physical media. So you either had to buy the vinyl or the CD, and I think it started at number 2 or number 3 in the Billboard charts, and that's all from physical sales, which makes me so happy. I think since it's been released on iTunes, but the album is called Mutiny After Midnight. The artist is Johnny Blue Skies and the Dark Clouds, which Johnny Blue Skies is the alter ego of Sturgill Simpson. So I found out, I learned of Sturgill Simpson probably a little over a decade ago. He's a true artist, paving his own way. He's super talented. He's a great songwriter. And he had a post about this album that he's finally in the band he's always dreamt of being in since he was a kid. And that's like, it's come to fruition like now in his life. And so got this album pre-ordered, or pre-sale, and it came in time. So I included the song Don't Let Go from this album. I feel like it was a good representation, a good tune. So Johnny Blue Skies and the Dark Clouds. Next, another band that I discovered probably around the same time as Sturgill Simpson was a band called Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. Big fan of them. They have several albums. The song that I chose to share with you is the title track off their album called The Future. It's cool, sort of reflective silver sleeve here. Big fans of Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, so I wanted to share them with you. There were lots of songs that I had hoped to share. I was going to play American Hi-Fi, another one of those big bands during my formative years, which they're back together and touring again, which is exciting. Another band was Bishop Allen. With the time and everything, I couldn't make it work. I wish I would have been able to play Bishop Allen, but go check them out. They're an indie band out of Northeast, New York, and they're also back together after years of hiatus. So Bishop Allen, go check them out. But in the vein of sharing indie artists, one I did chose to share and could fit in was this band out of Brooklyn. They're two guys in, their mid-20s, I think. They're called Ray Bull. I've seen them live. So this is an EP called Easy Way to Lose. It's pretty fun. It's the size of an LP, but it's actually an EP. I'll share that with you. So the fun thing when I opened this and listened to it the first time, it was slow. It didn't match what I had heard streaming. So I learned this is actually set on a 45 RPM instead of the normal 33 and a third. So that was kind of a fun little, nerd Easter egg, I suppose. So I shared the closer of this EP called "Name Something Better." They're a fun pop band. Next, I wanted to share another band that's kind of under the radar. They're from Dayton, Ohio, and they're called Harbor. Harbour. This album is called "Thoughts on Letting Go," and the song I chose to share with you was "Float." The way I learned about this was just as so many of the artists and songs. I learned of it from a friend who he heard this song and shared it with me, and I loved it, and so I bought the album and saw the band, and they're great live. So Harbor, check them out of Dayton, Ohio. The next artist, my wife and I have followed for 20 years, just about. Saw him at a stage in a bar in Nashville. As a background, what I've been doing this year is I have a goal of listening to 500 of my LPs. In the future, I'll do the 45s, but this year I'm going for 500 LPs. And the background is, I have my own. I of course want to listen to those. I listen to vinyl a lot. I mean, music's always on, right? It's on streaming. It's on Bluetooth speakers. It's on in the background when I'm working, wherever, right? So I listen to vinyl, routinely. But I wanted to make sure I every single record that I inherited, I wanted to be spun at least one last time. There's some that I will likely never listen to again. There's some that I will listen to many, many times again. But I wanted to, when an artist puts out an album, and then, whether I buy it or someone else buys it, my dad bought it. It's like records were made to be listened to. They weren't made to sit idle on a shelf. So I wanted to listen to them. I wanted to make sure that they all get listened to. So, part of that and all of this is streaming's great. It gives us access to artists immediately. Even indie artists can get their stuff on streaming pretty easily these days. So it's a great medium. But Eric Church had put out an album last year called Evangeline versus the Machine, and it was intended to be like one piece of music, one piece of art. It was intended to be listened to front to back. That's how I listen to, as many records as I can, as many albums as I can. Now, life doesn't always allow that. Sometimes you need to hit pause and you don't get to resume it until a few days later or whatever. But yes, I listen to streaming. I listen to shuffle. I listen to whatever artist will come on. I listen to music that way too. But I really appreciate what goes into an album, into which songs to choose, into what order to put them in, into the production and intention behind the album. So, of course, the first time I listened to Evangeline versus the Machine, it was straight through on vinyl, and it was awesome. I had been looking forward to that album because I knew it was coming out, and I knew the story behind it. So after he put the album out, he decided to have a weekend where he was going to play it live for the first time. He played the album front to back live, and then played normal selection of his catalog, right? And he's done that on this tour. But the first weekend that he did this was in a smaller venue, and he videotaped the whole thing. He recorded the whole thing and released it as a double live album. And of course, I had to buy it. So I have the regular Evangeline versus the Machine, And then this is Evangeline versus the Machine Comes Alive, the original motion picture soundtrack. I have not seen the concert film yet, but I know that this was recorded the night that I was there. My family and I were there to witness this. And it's so cool because I have a bunch of live albums, and I've always wondered what it would be like, right? To listen to an album and know you were there. Well, my wish finally came true. So thankful to have that opportunity, and I'm so thankful that this record exists. So I chose a song on the B side called "Rockets White Lincoln." It's just a really fun kind of old style rock and roll song, and I love it. It's a good song to dance to. So I wanted to share that with you from Evangeline versus the Machine. And I will say, Eric Church is at the peak of his abilities. He's better than ever before. He's such a professional. He appreciates his fans. He's just a good dude. So happy to support him. All right, the last song was supposed to be a 45. So Aerosmith is my favorite band, which, by the way, I learned of because of my babysitter. Now I knew of Aerosmith, but they became my favorite band because of my babysitter. She loved them, right? She was a teenager and really introduced me to them. So they've been my favorite band ever since. And they have an album where they put is it greatest hits essentially of their second half of their career with Geffen. So their hits from the Permanent Vacation album, their hits from the Pump album, and their hits from Get a Grip. And then they threw 3 new songs on there and released them as singles. So one of my favorite songs of all time was one of those singles. However, it was put together on a compilation called Big Ones. Big Ones, as far as I know, has never been released to vinyl. But I did get the 45 for Blind Man. And so I intended to play this song. I had some snafus in the recording process. Again, it was a learning curve for me. And it just wasn't great quality of audio the first time I tried it. And it played at that time perfectly. However, when I subsequently went to re-record, there was a skip. And I tried to alleviate that skip. I tried several things, and I couldn't. So unfortunately, because I was recording it live, I could not share Blind Man with you. So I instead chose a song off the album Honkin' on Bobo. Came out in 2004. It's a blues cover album, essentially. So Never Loved a Girl is really an Aretha Franklin cover. And Aerosmith sounds fantastic. It's a great album. They had one more studio album after this, Music from Another Dimension, that came out in 2012. But I wanted to share this song because it's the first time I heard that song, it blew me away. And I shared it with my dad. I remember coming home after listening to the album, and I didn't share the whole album, but I shared several songs, and that was definitely one of them. And of course, it makes me think, Aerosmith, huge giant band, right? I never imagined they would ever play Canton, Ohio, but in 2015 they did, and that's the year I happened to move back to Ohio. So I took my dad to see Aerosmith. We had good seats, kind of eye level with the band, maybe a little above on the side. And I mean, they rocked the house. So I remember when we left the concert, my dad made a comment that essentially, like, that's the largest concert Canton has ever seen. And I mean, they've had the same like Legends, the Legends series they have every year since then. So, I'm sure bigger audiences at the stadium as it's been rebuilt. But that was a cool moment. Even though my dad never really cared for Aerosmith, he got why I did, and it was live music, so I was able to share that with my dad. So, had to end with Aerosmith, of course. All right, well, if you watch this, you took the time, thank you. Again, I love sharing music with people, and that's what I'm trying to do with this video. So, cheers.